Hey everyone, what's up? I am Brazil. Some of you may know me from the Eugene's videos that Strife has uploaded. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for how fucking boring my voice is to listen to, so I'll try to make this as entertaining as possible by swearing a lot and talking about nonsense. So anyways, this is a Raw Path 4, and to start out we're going to kill some mobs up here, these spiders for bloodlust stacks. And then there are some mobs in this hallway that we're going to kill as well. And then on past that, there's not a whole lot until the, first boss. I don't know what you would call it. There's a champion knight that spawns at the end of this hallway. And so once these mobs are dead, we're going to make our way down there and kill this. It's about 10 seconds until it spawns once you get down here to where we're standing now. So you can kind of just watch the NPCs and wait a while. They'll move up to about the middle of the hallway. One of them will scream, and then the knight will come down. And we get our might stacks and banners in order, and then we focus pull it into this wall up here, as you'll see now. And then we go ahead and time warp this boss, because there's not really a point to time warping Balthazar, because he moves around a lot unless he gets bugged, which sometimes that happens. You can unbug him by using like Mace Knockdown or any other type of interrupt, and that will cause him to go active and fight you. But to get him to spawn, you have to kill these hounds. They're a bit more overpowered than the human elite skill, Hounds of Balthazar, which is kind of a waste. And there are 3 of them. We have 4 people go and kill the first one, and then the Guardian usually runs over and pulls the other 2 and brings them over to the rest of the people so you can kill them all together. And then you'll take the orbs that they drop, and you take them and put them in this brazier thing, however you pronounce it. Sort of like Brazzers, the porn site. I'd highly recommend that if any of you are looking to subscribe to one. Anyhow, at the beginning of this fight, he does kind of bug out a little bit, and so we get him unbugged, so it's not sort of exploiting or spoofing or whatever you'd want to call it. But I guess we make it as legitimate as we can. You'll notice that he does a fire whirlwind attack, which is about 10 seconds between, when it finishes and when it starts. If you're playing on warrior, you can time it with weapon swaps, since your swap is up every 5 seconds if you have fast hands. Otherwise, you can just count to 10 from whenever he stops doing his attack. He also does an attack where he brings down some, fire AoE onto the ground. It can be difficult to avoid, but for the most part, it's not too bad. Unless you've got him, pushed up into a corner and he just pulls it all down around you. It can hurt a bit, so you want to try and avoid it. This cutscene kind of trolls me a little bit, and it kills me, right whenever we get out of it. It's kind of irritating, and that will cause you to lose your bloodlust stacks, but it's not really a big deal, because there are plenty of trash mobs to skip, and you'll probably never get them back anyways. But we make our way down to this sort of corner in the hallway, and there are some oozes that you don't want to fight. It's best just to run past them. Usually they put 1,000 conditions on you, and then they sneak up and shrink themselves down and go into your asshole, and it hurts pretty bad. So running past them is usually the best way to do it. Then there are some spectral guards, you can focus pull them out of the way. It's good to have some sort of condition removal for this part to get rid of cripple, because the archers can cripple you, and also stability can be useful because maybe it's a swordsman, I don't recall, but some of them will stun you, and if you get stunned in an archer AoE, then you might die. Then there are, at this point, some trash mobs that again we're just going to run past because ArenaNet hasn't quite discovered the formula for making killing trash mobs worth the time investment, so until that happens, I think they're going to get skipped by the majority of players, which it saves time. I don't know, some people have a problem with skipping mobs. If you do, then fuck off and stop watching the video and go complain on the forum some more. If not, then keep watching, but we're going to pull some gorillas down here and just kill them just for, making it easier and not having to fight the elementalists and whatnot that follow us in the room. And you've also got to kill these gorillas in order to I guess, free up these rooms where you will take a poison bucket and dump it on these stumps. That will spawn a tree, and then once 3 trees are spawned, the boss will come out. And we recently, which I say recently, this is an old video, but we found a strategy a while back that allows us to melee this boss so we can kill him in like 20 seconds, opposed to standing by this rock that you see Strife running past now and ranging him. That's kind of how most people do it, and it's, I don't know, it's easy to do. You're not really at any risk, but for meleeing this guy, basically what you want to do is stand about where we're standing. You'll avoid most of these little green orbs that way. And then the boss does 2 attacks. He summons a tree, but he doesn't do that too much in melee range. And he also does an attack where his wrist will glow, like sort of what he just did, and he'll sort of wave it around. You want to interrupt that. You can interrupt this guy like forever. He doesn't really, I guess his defiance stacks or whatever don't work, but you want to interrupt him when his wrist glows and he can't knock you down. That's what that attack is, and so you can just kind of melee him for free, and it saves a lot of time. Coming up on this next part here, this is where things, I guess, can go wrong for a lot of groups. There are some mobs down here. It's an Illusionist, an Elementalist, a Mage, and sometimes a Hunter, and that combination can be pretty bad. But if you LOS them into this corner and use Reflection, for the most part, you're going to be okay. Some people might go down if the Mage AoEs. I think Strife actually does. Yeah, because he sucks. But anyways, it's not a big deal if you use Reflections. If you don't have Reflections, then everyone in the group is probably going to die. So keep that in mind. But we're going to move on up here. There are some more trash mobs, and we actually do kill these ones because it's more or less necessary, I guess. And you can get Bloodlust stacks, so this is one of the other places to get Bloodlust stacks. Something knocked us all down there. I think it might have been like a mage. I don't know. I don't remember. The Wizardess, I guess. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was another mob. But after these guys are all dead, this Order of Whispers NPC, which, spoiler alert, is the next boss, is going to open the door, and then we're going to run past these spiders. They can cripple you and put some other conditions on you, so condition removal is definitely helpful there, and if you have like a Staff Guardian, you can use Line of Warding or Ring of Warding with Hammer to prevent them from chasing you. But if you've done Path 3 of Arah, this part will probably look familiar. You're going to make your way up to this next room, and this is where the plot thickens and one of the NPCs transforms into the next boss. But before that, we're actually going to kill this champion spider, which is very similar to Malrona in Twilight Arbor. It's pretty much exactly the same mechanic, and the reason we're killing it here is because it will tend to follow you and just kill the NPCs and make it take longer if you try to skip it. So that's kind of the reason we kill it there. And consequently, the poison that it puts on you, I don't believe you can cleanse it, because I used all 3 shouts here on my Guardian, and the poison did not go away. But I'm using Pure Voice and not Soldier Runes. That could very well be the problem. Either way, it's not a huge deal. But you can come up here for the next part. You'll need condition removal. This boss will put 25 stacks of confusion on you whenever it brings its clones up and shatters them. So you want to have a competent Guardian to cure conditions, or if you're running a different Mesmer build with shattered conditions, which is sort of the latest patch that came through, you can do that. But just be quick about it unless the boss bugs out, which it kind of does here. And it's difficult to notice if this boss bugs out or not because it dies pretty fast, and there's, I guess, time between its attacks, so even if it's not bugged, it just kind of stands there anyways, doesn't do anything. But yeah, if you push it into the statue, like some of the bosses in here, they'll bug out, but it's not really a big deal. It definitely makes pugging easier, although no, I don't suggest exploiting. If you do, fuck you, get banned, you're an asshole. But then this next part is underwater, like Path 3 again, and then you'll run the light orbs. And there's some gorillas up here that you can fight if you want to fight them, but it's kind of a waste of time. If you need bloodlust stacks, then it can be a good place to get them, but for the most part we skip them unless we need stacks or for whatever other reason. In this particular video we do skip them. But we'll make our way up here, and instead of having a Guardian run the first orb, we actually have a Warrior take it and use Bull's Charge. It does go a bit faster than having Guardian, and you're not really in any risk of dying because you cover so much distance with Bull's Charge. But the Mesmer can run ahead. Strife is unaware that you can portal on top of that rock he just jumped over because he's a noob and doesn't understand how to play Mesmer. So he'll portal back here a bit further, but it's not really a big deal. And then you just have whoever's carrying the Orb of Light take through the portal, everyone else can go, and you put it in, the door opens. It's not really a big deal, although some groups have problems with it if you don't throw the orb correctly. You can spend hours and even days on that part, but it's not a huge deal. And then, coming up on this next part, there are some more mobs to skip. But you'll see Strife decides to grief us, and we end up killing like half the room. But you can skip these turrets. If you have a sword on your Guardian, you can target that eye turret there and sort of blink through this rock and use Wall of Reflect straight on the other side. It saves a few seconds, it's not a big deal, but it looks cool, and your party members will think you're the best Guardian on the planet if you can do it. But you'll see Strife's, I guess his Warden, aggroed this abomination. And so we end up killing it right here, and then we go down to the next abomination by the door, and one of the warriors throws an axe, and that will cause this mage over here to aggro, so we end up killing the mage and the abomination after we pull them into the door. And then at some point another mob gets aggroed as well when person goes down and loses their stacks. But these things can tend to happen, especially in unorganized groups like we're running, because the players are all terrible and trash mobs are too overpowered. But if you run into problems, you can LOS these mobs behind the door here, and you can blind them, you can interrupt them, anything that helps you deal with them a bit easier. And then this next boss right here is very difficult, and we've been quite unsuccessful in actually defeating him. We got pretty lucky on this run and beat him on our first try, which is something that usually doesn't happen. But you'll see we use war banners for warrior, for might stacks for the whole group, and we use other banners and for great justice and stuff like that. And we also use feedback because it's an exploit, and Robert Rhoda can't figure out how to fix it, but I guess he did already, so that's fine too. But by far the best strategy for fighting this boss is to have everyone spread out and range him. Classes that are really good at this in particular are Ranger with longbow, Warrior with rifle, and Guardian with staff. That's probably the best composition for fighting Lupicus. No one usually dies when that happens. It just makes the fight easier, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it's pretty quick too. It's not too slower than this. I think we only kill Lupicus in like a minute. But having 5 rangers, you'll usually kill him in about 20 seconds with longbow, because barrage is pretty strong. But Strife goes down here because he doesn't understand game mechanics once again. And then he also goes down twice because Lupicus decides that being undead allows you to attack once we've killed him. So again, fantastic game design, and we're going to continue on past this up to probably one of the most entertaining boss encounters in the game. You will see in a minute, but there's another event to do first. This event involves killing giant green anti-air penises with ranged weapons. So you'll move up here to the first penis that's sticking out of the ground, and you're just going to go up on this hill and range it. The idea of ranging this here is just to avoid aggroing trash mobs, because they'll just follow you around and make things bad for you. There's a hole in the ground here. Sometimes you can fall in it, and it takes a second to jump out. And in particular, if you are meleeing, you can get stuck in that hole and get killed pretty easily. This one here, it's definitely not a good idea to melee this because the drakes will poison the hell out of you and you'll die ridiculously fast. Once again, Strife, the best player in Guild Wars 2, aggroes every single mob, and they chase us for a while, but you can go up under this boat. I guess it's a boat, I don't know what the fuck it is. It's a boat that flies in the goddamn air. Shit like this completely does not make sense to me. I guess it made sense to whoever was designing the game, but you can go, I'm not even gonna, fuck, I'll just call it a car. You go under this car, and you can usually lose aggro. The drakes do stop following us, and then again, there's another penis that you have to range down. So you'll kill this thing. You don't want to aggro any of these mobs either, because there's abomination and grubs and shit. And meanwhile, doing that, you can have your guardian sneak off and kill the 2 eye turrets guarding the door with Wall of Reflect. And then after that, there's a chest you can pick up, and then that opens the door to this room. This room here contains the Grin Priest, and he is one of the most challenging bosses in the game, and he's also, I don't know, it's entertaining, it's kind of fun to fight him. I really like it. If you've ever done the Graveling Burrow event in Ascalonian Catacombs Path 3, then I guess you'll have some sort of idea how to do this. It basically involves you running around the room for half an hour and killing shit that serves no purpose. Anyways, but one of our party members here got chilled, and I decided it would be a good idea not to cure his condition because he should suffer for being a bad player. But anyhow, there are a few sets of mobs around the room. This is the first one, I guess, maybe the second one, I don't know. We kill it second in order. We kill the mage and then the grubs. The grubs they're kind of deceiving because they don't really do as direct damage to you, but they throw down these little AoE rings that are tiny and impossible to see, and if you stand in them, you die pretty quickly, so you don't want to stand in those, and if you don't stand in them, you'll be fine, you'll be able to kill the grubs a lot. But if you see a lot of dodging and moving around, it's because we're, like I said, avoiding the red circles. And then this next group of mobs is probably the hardest group of mobs in the entire game, and you'll see an interesting bug that happens from using Sword Blink on my part. But you can focus pull them, and then you pretty much want to feedback and time warp like immediately, exactly how Strife doesn't do it. And you can burn these guys down. The reason we time warp here is because there's absolutely no reason to time warp any single part of this next boss, since the mechanics are so well thought out and he's designed so flawlessly. But anyhow, this Illusionist is kind of a pain in the ass, and he's an even bigger pain in the ass whenever he puts down his chaos field and you have 1,000 mobs trying to fight you. But you'll see I got stuck in this rock here, and if that happens, you could probably waypoint out, even though the waypoint is like fucking far away as hell. But luckily I'm a guardian, and I can use merciful intervention and exploit my way through walls just like that. And I got out, and so for this part, the first phase, I guess, of this boss fight, whatever you want to call it, I like to call it a disaster, but you want to stand in these black marks on the ground. And then there is a silver wraith, and you damage him, and he teleports around through all the different marks. And then after he leaves your circle, 2 mobs will spawn. I believe they are just normal mobs, and you can kill them pretty easily. If you have Berserker's gear, then they do pose a slight threat to you, although, I mean, it's not really anything challenging to overcome. It's not really a big deal, but the wraith makes 2 trips around through the circles. And once he gets to, I guess, the last circle on the second trip, he dies, and then the boss spawns. And yeah, so this boss, I don't know what to say. Like, if you work a job that's terrible and you have a boss and you hate him, like, you can just deliver that over to this boss, fucking the Grin Priest. And basically what you do, it's, I guess, the same idea as before. There are wraiths and black circles on the ground. and you have to kill the wraiths in order to damage his health. You can't damage him directly. I don't think, like, maybe Dark Fields with a Necromancer, you could pull off some crafty shenanigans and kill him that way. I don't think so, I've never tried it, but again, I've never played with a Necromancer in dungeons because they're fucking stupid and a waste of a class. But anyhow, yeah, we run as a group for the first part of the wraiths, all 5 of us, since they only spawn one at a time for the first little part, and you can kill them faster that way, I guess. You'll also notice me using staff as my weapon. That's just for bloodlust stacks. And any other point in the dungeon when I use staff was for bloodlust stacks. So some of you may have caught that. If you did catch that, good job. You have a good eye. And you should congratulate yourself. That's impressive. But if you didn't catch it, then that means you're a bad player, so fuck you. But after a certain point, the wraiths will spawn 2 at a time. And you can have 2 warriors take one side of the room and kill the wraiths there. Then you can have the warrior guardian Mesmer kill wraiths on the other side of the room if you're playing with a group composition like us. If not, if you have like 5 rangers or like engineers and shit like that, then it would probably behoove you to run as a group and kill them as a group. Just, I guess, it would probably be faster that way. And then you'll also notice that we periodically get marks of Grinth. The marks of Grinth can be dodged if you time it correctly. Whenever it starts to blink quickly, you can evade. If you don't evade, then you get killed instantly. And you can make the marks go away by killing the wraith that is putting the mark on you. Other than that, that's pretty much this whole event, and my explanation for this boss is done, and he still has half health left, so yeah, that's what I like to call properly designed. This boss takes this boss fight alone takes longer than every other boss fight in the game combined. That's how bad it is. So Robert Rhoda, I doubt you're watching this. If you are, then god damn it, do something about this. Please, dear God, fix it. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I guess I can take the rest of the time to talk about how there's, I guess, the absence of videos that have been on Strive's channel as of late. Most of us have kind of stopped playing Guild Wars 2 at this point, I guess because of the Living Story. I don't know why Living Story exists. I don't know what's happening with it, but it's sort of an excuse to roll out new content that's not actually entertaining or fun or anything. It's just kind of like, I guess, an excuse to say that, look, we're doing something. That's kind of my take on it. I guess I'm being kind of an asshole about it. And I'm not a game developer. I don't know how difficult it is to make content, but it definitely doesn't please people, so I guess that's the reason that the majority of us have stopped playing, although I guess I still log on periodically to spend money in the gym store for Jade weapon tickets and stuff. But yeah, that's where we've been. That is the reason that there have been a lack of uploads to Strive's channel. That, and like, we already have videos for everything in the game. Unless something gets like dramatically changed, I don't know if Strive will ever bother making new videos. Perhaps I will. I still have some ideas for other Eugene videos. Maybe I'll make like an engineer guide, I don't know. Maybe a guardian guide. But anyways, now that that mess of a boss fight is over, we will make our way down past this room, which has some rocks that you'll dodge, like you saw us do a few seconds ago. It's not really a big deal. And then we'll run down through this valley, canyon, whatever it is, past these beautiful cactus plants to a cave in the wall. And this cave contains a boss that previously irritated anyone who had ever attempted this dungeon. And it was sort of like a, I don't know, it was a checkpoint for elitism and being better than other people. But since then, ANET decided to nerf it into the ground and sort of open this dungeon path up for everyone to be able to complete it. Which, if you're watching this video, you're either doing it for the purpose of, I guess, entertainment, just because you want to watch it or because you actually need help with a dungeon. But yeah, so this boss isn't really too problematic anymore. The idea of the fight is to damage it down to 50% health, at which point it will go invisible. Then you have two people go and grab sparks, which there are 3 sparks in the front of the room, 2 in the back, and then you can pull them into these things on the ground, these symbols, whatever they are, which Strife did a pretty poor job there, but who can fault him? He's a terrible player. Anyways, that will cause the boss to spawn, and we're going to get it into this corner. The reason we fight it in this corner is just to, I guess, make it easier for the people running the sparks. You don't want to use, like if you're playing warriors, you don't want to use for Great Justice or banners or anything quite yet, because it's sort of a waste. I guess you could, because the fight's not that long, but I don't know. And then whenever it's at 50% health, it will go invisible like you see now. I guess you don't, but it got a buff called Dwayna's Embrace that causes it to go invisible and heal. If you notice its health bar, it doesn't really increase. Before, I guess they nerfed it 1,000 times, it would have already been at full health, and we would have pretty much ruined the encounter because we pulled these sparks so badly. But I guess it made it easier for people that couldn't figure out how to do it. I don't know. But yeah, and so whenever it comes back up, after we get the sparks in, we time warp, put our banners down, and then we proceed to kill it pretty easily. It's not a particularly difficult... I guess the boss itself isn't hard, but it's sort of the sparks that mess with people for whatever reason. I don't know. But yeah, so hopefully that gave you an idea if you're struggling with this boss in particular. Definitely don't be afraid of it going into it. It's only pixels on the screen, and it's not very hard. And sometimes you can get bugged out, like whatever happened to Riddle here. If that happens, I guess you get a waypoint. That's what he did, and it fixed it. Also, one other thing I'll go ahead and mention about that fight. Simmon will periodically petrify you, and that will cause you to be unable to move. That's the point of the Dwayna's tears there. You can pick those up and throw the tears on whoever's petrified. But you can also sort of avoid that by using stability. I'm not sure if it's a bug, an exploit, I don't know. I don't know if it's been fixed since the time of this video, but at least it used to work. So you can use like Hallowed Ground if you're a Guardian, or you could use Balance Stance if you're on a Warrior. If you're on a Ranger or a Necromancer, you're kind of fucked because good luck with stability. But yeah, that's sort of, I guess, a way to avoid using tears. And anyways, there's, I guess, a run past that. Up to this pool of water, you drop down in it, and there's an undead shark. Somehow he got stuck in the wall at that part. I've never really seen that happen, but I guess this time it did, since half the bosses have bugged out. But he will pretty much one-shot your whole group if he attacks you, so it's good to have an interrupt or just like a block or any kind of invulnerability if you're worried about that, because he can fuck you up pretty badly. And then you just want to run around to the right up here. And there are some gorillas in the middle that you can again skip, because there's not a point to fighting them at all. Although there is one gorilla at the end that previously would get in a fight with the NPC, since this fucking NPC has a melee weapon. I don't know why. He's like it's probably the only NPC in the game that I know of. Maybe I'm not thinking, but he uses melee weapons, and then he would fight the gorilla in the cutscene, and that would cause the path to bug. And you would get to the last boss, and it would never spawn because it's bugged out, and so people spent like 12 hours trying to do this path, and then it just fucking bugged on them. But yeah, I mean, we skipped the gorilla, and I guess we got lucky, I don't know. But the NPC didn't bug out, and the last boss spawned. But you can see this group of trash mobs here. We just go ahead and fight all 4 at the same time, because with Reflex, you're pretty safe. You can fight them without any problem. If you don't have any Reflex or just want to be safe, you can stand behind the plants that are on the ground and LOS the mobs one at a time. You can see the plants back behind us there, and you can pull the mobs over. and just kill them one by one that way. It's definitely a safe way of doing it, and you probably aren't in any sort of risk of dying. But this boss here is a dramatic disappointment for someone looking to, I don't know, feel rewarded for doing something challenging. It's sort of just a HP sponge like most bosses are. And he has some mechanics from all of the other boss, like he summons trees, he petrifies. He pretty much has all of the easy mechanics from the rest of the bosses you fought, and you can just stability and time warp and kill him. You don't have to worry about getting petrified or anything, for the most part at least. But that's pretty much it. And I guess that's it for the dungeon. I'm sorry you had to put up with my voice. It's boring, I know, but anyhow, thank you for watching, and goodbye.